If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The Cleveland Browns made a move this week that may have gone under the radar for many fans, but it carries an intriguing layer of local flavor and potential future upside. The team officially announced the signing of wide receiver Luke Floria to the practice squad, giving the Minter, Ohio native a chance to continue chasing his NFL dream in the city where he grew up. At the same time, the Browns parted ways with defensive end KJ Henry, releasing him from the practice squad in a corresponding move. While neither of these transactions will dominate national headlines, they reflect the constant churn of roster management in the NFL, where every week brings adjustments, opportunities, and tough decisions. For Floria, though, it represents the continuation of a journey filled with persistence, setbacks, and the kind of resilience that fans in Cleveland often admire. Floria's story begins just a short drive away from Cleveland, in Minter, Ohio, where he grew up and first began to carve out a name for himself on the football field. As a high school recruit, he was ranked as a 3-star prospect and slotted as the number 244 receiver in the 2020 class. While those numbers may not leap off the page, they spoke to a player with solid potential, especially considering the competitive landscape of high school recruiting where thousands of athletes fight for recognition every year. Choosing to stay in-state, Floria committed to Kent State, a program that has quietly produced talented skill players over the years, and it was there that he began to develop the foundation that ultimately led him to this shot with the Browns. At Kent State, Floria put together a steady 5-year career that saw him appear in 47 games. He was never the type of player to command national headlines or put up gaudy statistics week after week, but he carved out a reliable role in the Golden Flashes offense. Over his collegiate career, he caught 100 passes for 1,302 yards and 12 touchdowns, showing an ability to contribute consistently over the long haul. He even flashed some versatility, carrying the ball 4 times for 23 yards and a touchdown. Those numbers may not scream superstar, but they illustrate the kind of dependable, hard-working receiver that teams value on the back end of a roster or on a practice squad. Every NFL team needs guys who can do the little things right, who can fill in multiple roles during practice, and who are willing to grind for their opportunities, and Floria fits that mold. When the 2025 NFL Draft came and went, Floria's name was not called, but that didn't mean his NFL dream was over. The Browns quickly brought him in as an undrafted free agent, recognizing both his potential and the storybook connection of a local product getting a chance to wear the orange and brown. Training camp, however, dealt him an early setback. He was waived with an injury designation, putting his future with the team in jeopardy before it had even fully begun. For many players in that situation, it could have spelled the end of their NFL chances, but Floria kept working, kept training, and now finds himself right back where he started, with the Cleveland Browns. Practice squad roles are often overlooked, but they play a vital part in the NFL ecosystem. Players on the practice squad are not only preparing themselves for potential call-ups to the active roster, but they also play a huge role in helping the starters get ready each week. They simulate the looks of opposing teams, they provide depth for practices, and they form the backbone of a team's developmental pipeline. For Floria, this spot gives him a chance to grow in a professional environment, learn the nuances of an NFL offense, and prove to the coaching staff that he can contribute if and when his number is called. Given the physicality and unpredictability of an NFL season, especially for wide receivers who constantly battle injuries, there's always the possibility that Floria could see time on the active roster down the road. The other side of this transaction is the release of defensive end KJ Henry. Henry, who joined the Browns practice squad earlier this year, now finds himself a free agent once again. It's the harsh reality of the league. When one door opens for a player like Floria, another closes for someone else. Henry's departure reflects the constant balancing act that general managers and coaches face as they try to build not only the most talented roster, but also the most functional one based on current needs. For the Browns, adding another wide receiver to the practice squad made sense, particularly given the ever-changing dynamics at that position throughout a season. Zooming out from this specific move, it's worth noting that Cleveland fans have been buzzing this week for another reason entirely. The Detroit Lions stunned the football world on Monday night by outplaying the Baltimore Ravens in a game that left many shaking their heads. The Lions, often seen as underdogs, out-Ravened the Ravens, so to speak, playing a brand of tough, disciplined, and opportunistic football that Baltimore usually prides itself on. For Browns fans, seeing the Ravens stumble on a big stage provided a bit of extra satisfaction, considering the intense rivalry that exists within the AFC North. Every stumble by a divisional foe feels like an opportunity, and while the Browns continue to manage their own roster and prepare for their upcoming games, they do so knowing that the race in the AFC North remains as competitive as ever. For Luke Floria, this is a moment to savor, but also a moment to double down on the hard work that has brought him this far. Being signed to the practice squad is not the culmination of his journey, but rather another step on a path that requires patience, determination, and constant improvement. Every day in the building is a chance to show coaches something new, to prove that he belongs, and to inch closer to the dream of taking the field on Sundays in front of the hometown crowd. For a kid who grew up in Minter, just dreaming of one day suiting up in the NFL, to be wearing the Browns gear and catching passes in Berea during practice is already a special accomplishment. But if he can keep grinding, the story could get even better. This type of signing also resonates with fans in a unique way. Cleveland is a city that prides itself on hard work, resilience, and never giving up even when the odds are stacked against you. Floria's journey embodies those very traits. He wasn't a five-star recruit destined for stardom. He wasn't a household name in college football, and he didn't hear his name called on draft day. Yet here he is, finding his way back into the Browns facility, ready to work for his chance. It's the kind of story that might not grab national headlines, but makes local fans nod in appreciation. In a league where so much attention goes to the biggest names and the brightest stars, it's players like Floria who remind us of the countless stories of perseverance happening on every roster. Looking ahead, it remains to be seen whether Floria will ultimately earn a spot on the active roster or whether his role will remain as a developmental piece on the practice squad. But regardless of the outcome, his presence adds another layer of depth to the Browns' receiving core, and more importantly, it brings a local connection that fans can rally around. For now, his focus will be on learning the playbook, building chemistry with quarterbacks during practice reps, and showing the coaches that he can handle the speed and physicality of the NFL. Every rep matters, every meeting matters, and every opportunity to stand out could make the difference between staying on the practice squad or earning a Sunday jersey. As for the Browns, moves like this remind us that NFL rosters are never static. Injuries, performance fluctuations, and strategic needs force teams to constantly adjust. Signing Floria may not be front-page news across the league, but it's one more example of the Browns quietly building and maintaining the depth that will be crucial as the season unfolds. And for fans who love an underdog story, this one is worth keeping an eye on. Sometimes, it's the players who slip through the cracks of the draft, who fight their way onto practice squads, who end up making the most memorable contributions down the line. For Luke Floria, the opportunity is now in his hands. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. The NFL world is buzzing this morning after a statement from Cleveland Browns offensive lineman Joel BITONIO sent shockwaves through locker rooms across the league. What started as a routine interview quickly spiraled into one of the most talked-about moments of the offseason, and insiders suggest that the implications could reverberate far beyond the Browns' own facility. BITONIO, a respected veteran known for his forthright nature, didn't hold back when asked about the team's young quarterback SHEDEUR. The comments, described by sources close to the team as blunt and unexpectedly critical, have sparked a flurry of speculation from analysts, fans, and rival teams alike. While the Browns have historically maintained a relatively tight-lipped locker room culture, BITONIO's remarks threatened to crack that veneer, exposing tensions that might have been simmering under the surface for some time. According to those who were present during the exchange, BITONIO's critique was pointed and specific, addressing not just Sanders' physical performance on the field, but also his approach to leadership and preparation. The lineman, often regarded as a stabilizing presence for the Browns' offensive line, allegedly suggested that Sanders' decision-making in critical moments has raised concerns among some veterans. While he stopped short of calling out the quarterback in outright terms, The subtext was unmistakable. BITONIO believes that Sanders still has a lot to prove before he can be considered a reliable leader in Cleveland. The comments have since been dissected on every major sports talk show, with pundits debating whether this is a sign of locker room unrest or simply the candid assessment of a veteran player seeking to motivate the team. Rumors have begun circulating that other players may privately share BITONIO's concerns, though few are willing to go on record in the wake of the explosive statements. For fans and observers, the timing of BITONIO's remarks couldn't be more dramatic. The Browns are entering a pivotal period in their development, with expectations mounting around Sanders as the presumed face of the franchise moving forward. Any hint of discord in the locker room is magnified in these moments, and social media has erupted with a mixture of speculation, support, and outright alarm. Some commentators have suggested that BITONIO's comments might be intended as a wake-up call, a way to push Sanders toward greater accountability and consistency. Others, however, see them as an early indicator of potential friction that could destabilize the team if not addressed quickly. Either way, the story has captured the imagination of the NFL community, with insiders pointing to this as one of the first major controversies surrounding a quarterback who, until recently, had been largely shielded from public scrutiny. The Browns organization has remained officially tight-lipped, issuing a brief statement emphasizing team unity and the importance of supporting all players as they grow and adapt. However, sources suggest that behind closed doors, team leaders and coaches are engaged in a quiet but intense discussion about how to manage the fallout. The concern isn't merely about optics. It's about ensuring that the offensive line and quarterback maintain a functional, cohesive relationship. BITONIO's candidness, while perhaps uncomfortable, might also serve as a catalyst for dialogue and development within the team. Coaches reportedly see it as an opportunity to set clearer expectations and establish a stronger culture of accountability. Yet, as always in professional sports, the line between constructive criticism and damaging discord is razor-thin, and how the Browns navigate this situation could define their season before it even begins. Adding another layer to the intrigue, insiders hint that the comments have sparked private conversations among other veterans who may feel similarly. While no one else has publicly echoed BITONIO's critique, murmurs in the league suggest that Sanders could be facing a more challenging path than initially anticipated. Some veteran players reportedly admire BITONIO's honesty, viewing it as a rare glimpse into the locker room dynamics that are often carefully concealed from the public eye. Others worry that airing such grievances, even indirectly, might embolden outside voices to amplify minor issues, turning a manageable internal discussion into a media firestorm. Analysts and former players on various sports networks have already started weighing in, dissecting body language, previous performances, and reported interactions, attempting to forecast whether Sanders can weather this storm and emerge stronger, or if cracks in the team's cohesion could widen over time. What makes this situation particularly compelling is BITONIO's stature within the team. As a player who has been with the Browns for multiple seasons and consistently earned respect across the league, his words carry weight. The fact that he chose to speak publicly, albeit in a measured tone, adds fuel to the rumor mill. Sports insiders are now speculating whether this moment could signal a shift in the Browns' internal hierarchy, with veterans asserting more influence over expectations for Sanders. Some suggest that this might even impact roster decisions, with the front office closely monitoring not just performance metrics, but also interpersonal dynamics that could affect team chemistry. For fans, this adds a layer of drama that goes beyond the XS and OS of football. It's a story about leadership, mentorship, and the subtle, high-stakes politics that unfold every day inside NFL locker rooms. Meanwhile, Sanders himself has not issued a public response, maintaining his usual professional demeanor and focusing on preparation for upcoming games. Observers note that his measured silence could be a strategic choice, allowing him to avoid escalating the controversy while still processing feedback from a respected teammate. It's a delicate balancing act. Respond too forcefully, and the perception of division intensifies. Remain silent, and questions about confidence and authority linger. Sources close to the quarterback indicate that he is taking the remarks seriously, using them as motivation to improve and demonstrate his capability as a leader. If handled correctly, This episode could serve as a turning point in his development, reinforcing his resilience and adaptability under scrutiny. The narrative unfolding around Joel BITONIO and SHEDEUR Sanders illustrates the complex interplay of personality, performance, and perception in professional sports. What might appear as a simple critique on the surface actually reveals deeper themes about mentorship, accountability, and the pressures of stepping into a high-profile role. As the Browns gear up for a critical stretch in their season, all eyes will be on Sanders, not just for his on-field execution, but for his response to the challenges posed by veteran expectations. Meanwhile, the media, fans, and rival teams are closely watching, eager to see whether this controversy will catalyze growth or exacerbate tensions. One thing is clear. In the world of professional football, locker room dynamics are never as simple as they seem, and a single statement from a respected player like BITONIO can ignite discussions that ripple far beyond the stadium. As the rumor mill churns, insiders suggest that there will be no shortage of stories emerging in the coming days, from potential mentor-mentee conversations to shifts in team strategy and leadership structure. The Browns management is reportedly keen to manage the narrative carefully, emphasizing that growth often comes from honest feedback, even when it's uncomfortable. Analysts predict that the next few weeks will be critical for both BITONIO and Sanders, with the possibility of either reconciliation and strengthened bonds or escalating friction that could define the trajectory of the team. Fans, of course, are left to speculate, debate, and weigh in, further amplifying the buzz. Every social media post, every press conference, and every practice session could be dissected for signs of progress or tension. In the NFL, where narratives often rival the games themselves in drama and intensity, BITONIO's bold comments may be remembered as the spark that either reshaped a season or marked the beginning of a deeper internal reckoning. In conclusion, while the Browns have yet to officially frame the story, Joel BITONIO's remarks about SHEDEUR Sanders have undeniably captured the imagination of the football world. They serve as a reminder that in professional sports, talent alone is never enough. Leadership, adaptability, and the ability to navigate criticism are equally vital. Whether Sanders rises to the challenge or finds himself entangled in controversy remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. The locker room has never felt quite so tense, the rumors never so potent, and the eyes of the NFL never so focused on one quarterback's next move. In a league where every word can become headline news and every gesture can signal intent, BITONIO has done more than critique. He has sparked a narrative that could define an era for the Browns, or at the very least, dominate conversations for months to come. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!